Come and get started on a new mission, a new direction, a new intention. Welcome to 5.8G Alive at Connections 50 Plus. I am Terry-Ann Joseph Brathwaite.
And I am Jennifer Gibbons Joseph, catering to all your prospects in the third act of life.
Economic well-being, social gratification, personal fulfillment.
Join us on Wednesday at 6 p.m. on Connections 50 Plus Facebook page, YouTube channel,
and on Gael the Caribbean.
Good evening and welcome to another eventful, because these topics are usually eventful topics, with three wonderful presenters who have different perspectives on everything, but that's what makes us special to Connections 5.8 GLI. I am Maureen Bowen, and this evening, as usual, I have the pleasure of spending my evening with...
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our show. I am Jennifer Gibbons Joseph, one of the co-creators of Connections 50 Plus. Welcome.
And I'm Terry-Ann Joseph Brathwaite, the other co-creator. Great to be here once again.
Yes, it's really wonderful, and I hope that our viewers are in fact enjoying the material that we are sharing with them. Recognizing that the material is not scripted and you have three different perspectives coming at you. So along that vein, this evening, we wish to discuss something which I think, and we all agreed, needs some sort of ventilation. The area of discussion is on the following: the types of people or situations that we are choosing to avoid in this third act, as well as those people or situations which we think that we ought to embrace to ensure that we maintain our peace.
Yeah.
So I think that that's going to be something that would bring a lot of conversation in our meetups next week, God spare life. So ladies, the floor is open and it's your opportunity to share.
So Maureen, our topic, we're going to really be discussing about how we get our peace, the things that and I'm not saying things, but I want to say the people and situations that we should, in some cases, avoid, in some cases, embrace, to gain that peace. And in chatting, and before we started the recording, Terry-Ann asked a question about what is really, what we consider peace in terms of each of one of us would be thinking differently about peace. So I just want to start, I think it's a very interesting discussion to have, because many times I really ask myself, I want to live a peaceful life. We tend to say that you want to live a peaceful life. And I say, what really is a peaceful life? And for me, I would say one without stress. But can you have a life without stress? Because life is really challenging. It have all the different things occur without you having to do anything. It just comes at you, right? So being able to handle challenges, without having to remain in a situation for long, or a stressful situation for long. So I want to have, let me put it this way. as smooth a life as possible, if there's such a thing. And peace to me really is not having too many conflict situations and stressful situations, right? So at least most of my time should be one where I could say, thank you, God, for my life and being happy and um living what I see as my purpose. You know? Um And I also always have to, as I go along, examine myself, examine the situation I'm in to see what may create that stress in me, what may cause that conflict, what will get me mad, that just upset, you know? And if I keep examining myself when these things happen, then I know I will find the answer as to what to release, the people to avoid, or what to say, or how to act, and how not to put myself in situations that might create that conflict and that upsetting type of feeling that you have when you're not happy, with what is happening around you. That's how I would put it. Yeah.
Mhm. You know, after no, Maureen, after book a appointment with you, because
Mhm.
I'll refer you.
the case too difficult.
I'll refer you. Yeah.
She might be beyond
Because
help.
I had to get referred to higher powers, and I think that's where I
Correct.
go.
Mm.
But when we say peace, and as I told you all before, I was looking at the what is happening with the negotiations for this the so-called negotiations for the end to this Iran war that is going on. And it seems to me like there is no intention for peace, but there's a lot of pretense around the talk about peace because it's like you're in a bad ring and you call somebody bluff and they say, all right, here, come. So once a bluff is meant is bluff, a bluff is like a threat. It's supposed to be
Yeah.
such that you don't want it, so you do what I want you to do. And
Yeah.
so when I call you bluff, then the consequence is going to be negative to me. Because if I threaten you with something, usually if I carry out the threat, there's never a good and a bad side. It's usually lose-lose. And I think peace is the absence of that kind of situation, that kind of manipulation, that kind of, where you live in a place where everyone has the right to be as they are, and it is understood. And I also have the right that if my understanding of you is something that is contrary to my values, or I choose not to be around, then I can separate myself from you without consequence once I don't harm you, you know?
Yeah.
So when I look at peace in that context, for me, peace requires me to know where I stand and where I am for myself. And based on that, I could understand where I am relative to everybody else, no matter your motive for being wherever you are. And once I am in that zone where I know why I am where I am, you could be doing jumping jacks and spinning like a top. right next to me, you might be an annoyance. And if I can't remove myself immediately, you might be a disturbance. But unless I can't find a permanent way out, I will be at peace. Now, if I can't find a permanent way out, then I come back to the discussion we had last week or 2 weeks ago, sorry. If I can't find a permanent way out, I'm in pain. And because I'm not a sufferer, I am prepared to inflict some damage to get away from you or to get you away from me so that I can go back to equilibrium. So peace to me is not always a calm and loving thing. Sometimes the pursuit of peace requires a little war, a little endangering, because the essence of peace for me is that I am able to be who I am. Of course, once you're not breaking laws and stuff like that. And it gives me the right to not be bullied and not be manipulated by other people. You know, it's respecting, mutual respect. And in the same way, if I encounter someone who is not, if I go into a space and someone is there who is not like me, I can't demand that you conform to me. You know, I'll have to examine this space a while and see if I can settle in another path or another area. I can give one joke to illustrate that. And it's around my favorite person, my father, who lives in a retirement home and has gone in there, his mind intact. And there's a person that he really, really likes. And he discovered that the person has Alzheimer's. And he more vexed with the person that they have Alzheimer's and so can't be the friend that he imagines. And I keep telling him, but you beat him like that. Why are you so bold-faced?
Correct.
You know? So he has disturbed his whole aura because he finds this man should not have Alzheimer's so he could be his friend and have conversation.
Wow. Yeah.
So I think peace is an inside job to help you deal with the variability of the world. The world can't be changing me every day because of stuff that happens. I have to be constant. So I look at peace in that context.
I have a different view of, as always, we have different views here. When you asked the question about peace, it took me back to the way that I've lived my life previously and now trying to work towards getting out of. I have always lived managing chaos. And, you know, chaos to the point of view that it became the norm rather than how people would look at it as discomfort. It was the energy that drove a lot of my decisions, even from the point of view of kind of like preempting possibilities of the negativity, which resulted in the people-pleasing behavior because you know certain things will happen, so therefore you read the temperature in the room and you understand the adults and you kind of like study them and so that you put yourself in a position that you're ahead of the game. And so now in this new season where all of that chaos is gone, or it's not that it's gone, but it's that I interpret it differently by taking myself out of it because I'm now at the level of wanting to preserve my sanity or whatever little sanity that I have left. I am now deciding, and that's why I'm saying, for me now, when I think about peace, I think about a conscious decision, communicating with myself about people, places, and things that I would allow to engage with me or to, that I would even allow to, for me to even give it any energy. to be able to interact with. And so, things like trust and emotional safety and acceptance of differences, because I had a hard problem with that too. I just
Yeah.
trying to be ahead of the game. I was just think, well, we supposed to be and we're not supposed to be, and when people didn't supposed to be, it created a real problem for me, so that I think now about diminishing my ego in an effort that I could actually be me and understand me. Because when I tell people I do not know who I am, people are usually like, what do you mean? And what I mean is that the labels that I carry are not the person that I am. And in this season of trying to figure out about the peace, it's a question of nurturing the inner me and accepting certain things about me, and also recognizing that a lot of the things that people may have said to me about me are not really me, and that no, I don't have to carry that burden anymore. Um, for some people, for like myself too, making those decisions may seem to be easier because the persons who matter are now deceased to me. Right?
Yeah.
But what am I doing differently with those persons who are still here and who I choose to interact with and engage with? And am I carrying on the same narrative with a different script? Or am I finally getting to be a big girl and be able to speak for myself and to explain myself, and in some instances not even explain myself, understand that no, it's a complete sentence, it's a full stop, and feel comfortable with that. So I agree with both of you that peace will mean different things to different people, but I also agree that some of us are so locked into our past and locked into certain beliefs and values that would have been encoded in our brains,
Yeah.
that at this stage of our life, are we willing to do the work to free us so that we can actually feel good and comfortable and safe, to be the people that we are? And even if nobody accepts us, that we could accept ourselves, and we good with that. Yeah?
Maureen, honey, compromise. I think as we get older, as I get older, I find myself compromising more
Mm-hmm.
because at a different stage in life, I had more energy. So
Yeah.
I could handle the conflict, I could handle situations. And if I feel, say this is my way of doing things and I have to prove a point and all that. And doing that, the peace wasn't a word, that I would use, or situation that I want to be in. I never thought about being at peace. I always thought about I have to get things done, no
Right.
matter what, right? So at this stage, at this third act stage, you really moving. I no longer feel I have to fight for this, or prove myself and show strength, you know? So I feel now that for me to reach that stage of what we use in peace here, but that stage of comfort, I need to compromise in situations. All right. So for instance, I'm looking at something that happened recently. Oh, okay. Where I was invited. I like to go out and meet people, but I find myself not being very tolerant of things as before. But I want to go out. So regardless of what is happening, if I want to go to a situation, I will go and I could ignore,
Right.
things that I'm not happy with, but I'm having a great time. Now I find my patience wearing thin, and I am not putting up with certain things, right? So anyway, I did accept an invitation to go out and to an event. And when I got there, I felt, gosh, boy, I started in my mind complaining that should be, things.
Yeah.
And I had to really reflect and say, you know what? Just cool yourself now. You're there to have a good time. You know, it is not the way that you would like it. But you need to, it's time you just compromise. You relax, accept the things that may not be favorable to you, and focus on the things that could bring you that joy. I
Yeah.
had to switch, and to get, if you want to say, peace of mind, I had to switch and recognize that it don't always have to be your way. And as long you make the decision, and I'm talking about in my case, as long I make the decision to do something, in this case to go out, hey, make it a positive one. Know that it don't always have to go your way. If you're not comfortable and you feel it wouldn't work out, then don't go. You understand?
Yeah.
So I have found, for that peace of mind, I have to compromise. The other thing I found, and this comes with me at this stage in life. I'm doing the things that I wouldn't have done before. As I said, before, being at peace wasn't even a way of thinking, right? Is looking at the relationships and the relationships that I brought with me at this stage. Um, I started to examine whether I really want to maintain that sort of relationship, or let me put it this way, or treat it in the same one manner. You
Hmm.
understand? So I may have dealt with a friend or family member in a certain way before. So if that person, I was always told, I said, coming from sales, that people find me aggressive, right? I didn't have an issue with it before because I felt to be successful in my field, I had to be. Well, I switched it to assertive. I didn't see the word as aggressive. I felt it was assertive, right? But that way, I was successful with that being like that. Now, I no longer need to be like that. I see that type of temperament not helping the peace.
Yeah.
So So
Yeah.
I no longer want to be seen or act in any assertive way.
Yeah.
I like the idea, prefer being with a calm disposition, which is not normally me. You understand? So
Yeah.
I now have to look at how I relate to others, how I build the relationship, and do it in such a way that it will help me with that calm I'm looking for, as against being tense. If you understand?
Yeah.
So persons who may be in my circle who expect me to behave in a certain way, I now have to show them, or at least communicate to them, is like, I don't want to be like that again. I value my space. I value, as you say, my peace. And I recognize now that I have to act differently. Right? So in doing that, I may also have to release some people in my, I want to say release, maybe not connect with them as often. So those two
Yeah.
things, compromise come to mind to help me with where I want to be at this stage. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is
Yeah.
the
You know,
point.
hearing you speak, Jennifer, one of the things that comes to my mind is about peace being a choice. Because I'll
Yes.
tell you, there are some people
Yes.
who live
Mm-hmm.
in turmoil. And turmoil is their choice. You know, we
Yeah.
we think that
Yes.
why this person like that or why they not like that. That has nothing to do with us. That's not our concern. That is our interpretation of decisions that other people make. And why is it that other people's decisions affect the way in which we engage or interact with them is what should be important. Because I
Yes.
think for a lot of us, how genuine are we when we speak about connections? You know, I sometimes think that, a lot of us are still in an era of our lives where we treat people as situational rather than recognizing that, hey, it don't have to be the whole universe. I have maybe two or three great friends or I have friends who I know for certain things I can target or go to,
Yeah.
but there are other friends who I wouldn't have those conversations with them, but I wouldn't say that they don't bring me joy or that they don't add to my peace because just their mere presence and knowing that they are there as part of a core group of support personnel brings me a level of comfort, and I associate that comfort with me maintaining my mental health and my peace and that kind of thing. The other thing too is that I heard you say that um, we we make certain choices, like people say, I have to. Nobody has to. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Anything we do is a choice. And most people operate like if it's not a sort of choice. But no, it's sort of, whether it's conscious or unconscious or unconscious, it is a sort of choice and decision, and therefore we face the consequences of our decisions, or we enjoy the fruits of our labor. So that when we speak of peace, or when I speak of peace, I sometimes also think of people who I embrace, who I know what not to hold those spaces, or me trying to fit into those spaces anymore to be a part of that. And that
Yeah.
is my choice, right? And so, a lot of people say, well, this one doesn't bring me peace, or that one doesn't bring me joy. Nobody's to bring peace and joy. Um, People are people, and they bring who they are to the table, and we then take whatever we need to take out of that, as they do, take whatever they need to take out of us. And of course, there will be some fundamentals that we value, things like trust and communication and,
Yeah.
reciprocity and that kind of thing. But, to have expectations of others is to really challenge yourself to never have the peace, quote unquote, that you try to achieve for yourself. So maybe we could have a discussion, some kind of discussion on that perspective. Are we really working towards peace, or are we working towards trying to create an environment where we still have control and where we still have autonomy, or where we still want to be able to have this loud voice, as opposed to actually, or where we still try to be spectators? Because sometimes I think that, I still try to make sure that are relevant, and be a spectator in spaces that no longer fill me or no longer service me or no longer even want me to be there in them.
Yeah.
Maureen, that is a very, I can relate to that statement that you made, because very often I am described as blunt, forward. I would say basically, if I'm very honest about my personality, I'm a bully. I have very own way. And those are the way other people may describe me. But I will describe me as typically when I come to a position, I have thought about it, and 99.9% of the times I'm right. And is an issue of if it is important, how do I bring you around to my view of it? And if it is not important and I have no time to spend on this, all right, let's do it your way. I'll get it over and done with quickly and be done with you. And
Yeah.
If I write that down or I present that here, people may think, but she's not a nice person at all. It may sound so, but I really think that when Jennifer uses the word compromise, and the way I see that is being honest with myself. And it all really depends on my environment. My environment. If I don't have to stay long in the environment, and the environment could be you're living with me, so I can't get rid
Yeah.
of you, or I am in your
Right.
space, or whatever it is, I put effort into trying to understand what is going on if it does not make sense to me. And once I could understand what is going on, then I could remain balanced and at peace for the time that I'm there, because I know there's a time to leave. If I can't, then I have to just go through a little trauma, because I can't get away from you and what I perceive as
Yeah.
not peace. But I have found that if you are in an environment that I've created, and you, and this you is whoever it is, you're presenting something that makes no sense to me whatsoever. And it is sort of it's not conducive to the environment we have here,
Yeah.
I can't keep quiet. I have to help you help me understand why you have this position. And that usually goes into a discussion where people say, but you're embarrassing the people, Terry-Ann. Stop doing that. Stop persisting and asking those questions. And I say to myself, well, why must they stay in their ignorance and be talking nonsense? Because if I don't understand your position, you should be able to explain it to me so that I can at least understand where you're coming from. If it makes no sense at all, then I will challenge you. And that is typically how I get you to shut up. But giving myself the freedom to do that is a big part of why I am relaxed most of the time. Because I don't keep space for the people pleasing and those kinds of things. So we come back to this definition of peace, which I think people may have a definition of it as something that is the soothing and pleasant and nice. Whereas to me, peace is preserving a status quo that is in alignment with me where I am, or where I control, or where I ought to be, or where I own. If I'm not in a place like that, I'm not where I own, and where is not and the status quo is different, I have to then twist myself to be comfortable. But I spend most of my time in a place that I own, in my home, in my affairs, and if things are coming into that environment that is disturbing it, I do not see, and especially if it's going to be for a long time, or it changes the tone and texture of my space, especially if it's a space that I create. I use the language opposite to peace is what people say war. Then
Yeah.
you coming in and disturbing the place. I have to, I
Conflict.
have to, I have to,
Yeah.
I have to straighten you out, or I have to understand, have I misinterpreted what you're doing? And we have to come to a common ground that allows me to give you permission to stay in my space. So I think peace is an asset that I have to protect. And I am not going to allow people to mess with it unnecessarily, and I suppose that is why I would be very forthright. And Jennifer laughs at me a lot when I encounter people and I use the tool of the question to get to the bottom of things. And sometimes she says, "Oh God, you could probe." I tell people flat, you're not going to mind your business. I want to understand where you're coming from. But it's a lot of times to make sure that I see you, I understand where you are, and I don't have a crazy reaction to it. So my peace may not always be represented by smooth waters. It's probably
Yeah.
more like the open ocean. Yeah, there's always breeze going on and there's always some movement, but that movement is at the top. Underneath has to be steady. And I suppose I'm not a compromiser. Although many people who know me may think, no, Tarian, you're crazy. But I don't know. My thoughts
Yeah.
are evolving. That's why I say we have to have a session. But I think it is something that has to be defended. It has to be
Yeah.
defended. It is not
Well, it
negotiated. It is
certainly has to
not
be protected.
negotiated. It has to be
Yeah.
protected.
It
And if
has to be
people are coming
protected.
in,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
and especially if you're coming into my space, if I go into your space, like Jennifer said, sometimes you have to know, all right, chill out, Terry, and you're leaving just now. Or just go with the flow. You're intelligent enough, behave yourself. But where people come into your space, um, and they are not respecting that space in whatever way, um,
Yeah.
I think it is my right to not compromise, but to let you know what the space should be and to understand why you choose to be different. And then based on that understanding, I might temporarily let you continue to be different because I know you're leaving just now.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to allow you to stay in a habit that I have to tiptoe around all the time. I think that puts me in a position of unease that's not healthy or productive for my
Yeah. For your
peace,
wellness.
for my
Yeah,
peace.
and it's interesting you say that, unease, because that's what diseases really is, disease, right?
Yeah,
And it starts internally.
exactly.
The others, it starts internally. Yeah. And the other thing that is insightful as well is giving people permission to invade, because a lot of us we let our guards down,
Mhm.
and we because we tend to want to be uh, pleasant, quote unquote, or not be thought of as difficult or bullying, um, when in fact other people have recognized that about us and they are deliberately challenging to see how far they could push and how far they could go, because that's where they get their thrill.
Or they could mash up
Um,
your piece.
or that they can mash up your piece, exactly. And then they walk away and they said, but where you getting on so far? I don't understand why you behaving like that. It was just a simple question, or it not that serious. how serious do you look at your peace? Because and one of the things about um, peace to us as we speak is that whole thing about restoration is not only preservation, it's also about restoration as well. And that is why um, your vagus nerve speaks to fight or flight or rest and restore.
Mm-hmm.
So that a lot of people have to find ways to be able to rest and restore.
Yep.
Some may be avoidance, some may be no contact, some may be non-engagement, some may be uh, just pulling away and having quiet time, staying off of social media and all the different streams and all of those things which we talk about,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't understand the value
Yeah.
of them. So, for example, like I picked up a new thing that after 9 o'clock there's no phone, and that when the first thing when I get up in the morning there's no phone. I lay in my bed and I do my breathing and I stretch and I just spend some time with God and spend some time with me. There's no urgency anymore because no email is coming, no letter is coming, no text is coming. I mean, any phone going ping, 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 ping. But have made the choice and decision to put me first. And that's the other thing about peace. While and peace is very tumultuous because based on the
Yeah.
different things that will be coming at you on a daily basis, minute by minute. I mean, sometimes you get messages that create utter turmoil, but you have to have a way in which you are going to process that information so that you will maintain a level of balance. I think that's what I'm trying to work on now.
Mm-hmm.
More than but working on creating a balance that would allow me to be able to continue to navigate whatever life throws at me. And I expect that life will be coming hard and fast.
Yeah.
Hard and fast. Yeah?
Maureen, you say create balance, and I always say create that space around me, create that energy field. So I know what are the things, the people, situations, activities that will bring me that peace, that way to relax and feel, well, yes, this is my life. I think awareness is so important that
Yeah.
we should be really be aware, be conscious of the triggers that invade that well, for me, that feel, that energy feel, what triggers that um makes you uncomfortable. And if we are aware of why we feel a certain way when certain people in our space, why we will feel anxious for a situation, etc. And we spoke, or you spoke about the expectations that if we don't control our expectations of certain things, or we don't understand, and our Terian says she probe, but I agree, you need to probe in certain ways to understand your situation or understand that person, where they're coming from. Because people test you, huh? Someone might say, why are you so cool? Everything going good. You were able to do this and you were able to do that. But they're not saying it in a positive way. Like they
Right.
upset that you have
Yeah.
made yourself comfortable. They feel you're too comfortable, you're too happy, you're too cool, you know?
Yeah.
So being aware of the things that or situations of people that cause us to be upset or disturb our peace, some people just come at you with a negative energy all the time, that you have to be very conscious of that negative coming to you. And I would say you have to be prepared for it. So I know how I react or how I should react in certain situations. So my peace won't be disturbed. We also, on the same way, what I have found too, we have to be very committed to how we want to, what we have to do to secure that peace. You know, the things that we need to do, and everybody different. So I am constantly checking myself why I behave this way in a situation before I make a decision, deciding, hey, it don't have to be your way, you know, sometimes, and I've gone back using compromise. Sometimes we have to, it may be better if I do that. Not just to, it's not to please the other person to it. It's for my own comfort.
Yeah.
I wait. So I wait. As you say, balance, but I weigh the decisions. I take longer now. I tended to be very I could make a decision.
Spontaneous.
Yeah, I'm like that with decision making. And while I have no regrets before the way I would have handled situations, I realized that this is a different time for me. And I have to go a little extra mile and take a little more time in examining my decision and how my approach to it. All with one end result, for me, for my peace and my happiness, not for anybody else, me, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, so at this stage, on the third act stage, I think it's very important for us to be aware of what triggers and what goes against that peace that we are looking for.
Yeah.
However,
There,
we
there are two
determine
things that you
peace
talk
to
about,
be.
Jennifer, and one is energy. And
Yeah.
that's something that people have to be mindful of. That other people's energy impede, if you allow them to get into your space, the work back to get to your peace could be catastrophic. So that is also, that's something as well that we have to be mindful of, because sometimes, you stumble upon people like recently I stumbled upon somebody who the conversation was it seemed to be benign and nothing that was going to really engage anything, that kind of a way. But then I realized that the person was a virtual complainer. And no matter
Mhm.
what you put as a positive and a good, no, somebody else tried that and it didn't work, or this and that, or you
Yeah.
could say, and by the time I was finished with that conversation, I was exhausted. I
Yep.
didn't start the conversation exhausted. It was very pleasant. We started off greetings and salutations and long time I hear from you. And I was saying, well, all right, nice, we're going good. Um, but because I was high energy at the time and my social battery was fully charged, I welcomed the interaction. But
Yeah.
after 5 or 10 minutes of that, I said, but why the
Mhm.
battery drain like that? How that battery need recharging again? That battery was just full. And I again had to lock into moving away from, I don't want to sound like I'm embarrassing the person or like, cutting the conversation short. But sometimes you do to preserve your wellness and
That's what
your,
you have
yeah,
to do.
that's a Terrian movement. Yeah. But of course,
Yeah,
me,
yeah,
me being
You
the
you
drain
move
in
person,
my
on.
I
battery. Why standing up there for? I go on.
correct. Correct. And that's why I used that as an example. It came back to me because it's a difference in terms of how you interpret things. Because the other thing is for a lot of us, our peace, we like to share it. But peace is not something to be shared, it's something to be, as you said, preserved and guarded. And the other thing too is I think that we can lead the conversation in that direction. Do we know the kinds of energies or the kinds of individuals that we should be staying clear of at this stage in our say that in spite of whether they be relative, friend, well-wisher, financial um, support? Because one part of the issue here too is that we talk about peace as a singular nuclear kind of energy. But remember that sometimes we are caught between a spiral of many other people who share our space or share our lives or share our interests or and it could be simply, like a part of a church group, a part of a community group, you're going and join something, or you find yourself in a familial situation and that kind of thing. How much energy are you going to expend in those kinds of situations? And more importantly, who should you avoid? And it may not be a permanent avoidance, but based on where you are now, what types of people or what types of situations should we avoid? Because I think some viewers would probably be thinking, well, that's antisocial, or that why would you want to avoid people? You just kind of, but there is a reason for the avoidance, and it speaks to ensuring that you are able to take care of yourself mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. So not everybody comes with the same energy, and certainly not everybody has a right to share your energy. But if you choose to share it with them, then what are the kinds of things you are going to do to restore yourself when they charge up their battery off for you and move on? Yeah.
Maureen,
Yeah.
I have a different way of looking at that. I find it takes too much energy for me to figure out who I need to avoid. Because by the time those people, you see those battery drainers, they're skillful. Because they come with the intent of, they're like bandits. A bandit coming into your house does not knock on the door or ring the doorbell. They come in by deceptive means, they sneak in, they hide, they linger, or they come in under false pretenses, scoping to see what it is they really want to get before they take it and leave you drained. And I think sometimes I don't spend energy figuring out who I want to avoid. I'm very clear about the kind of people I want to be around. And if you don't fit that kind of energy, I'm not even going beyond 1 millimeter of your surface. And that is where my bluntness and my probing and I don't give you a chance. I don't give you a chance, because if you come into a situation and people say, you don't talk race, you don't talk politics, you don't talk religion. All right? It's not good for social company. So if you're not a part of my group, or if you know me, but and race, politics, religion could be, let's not say religion, let's say beliefs. Let's not say race, let's say lifestyle. All right. And let's not say let's not say, what's the first one? Race. All right. Politics and yeah. So if you come in for whatever it is, and you are projecting that you're making your declaration, I am declaration, and you're carrying on like that. Sometimes, because of how we were raised, politeness tells us that we, engage in the conversation and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And we get drawn in very, very, very quickly. And you're in a social situation, and by the time you realize, oh my God, where am I? Your social battery reached 25%. You
Yep.
turn the corner and you find a group or a person that is energizing, that is what. And you are approaching that with a 25% battery. You know, the likelihood that that group is going to look at you as a low energy person, you mess things up at the start. So my thing is, I focus on what is the energy I want to be around? What's the energy I like? What's the environment? And sometimes Jennifer has to pull me up so much because we want to do certain things. And I say, I'm not doing that.
Hmm.
And I'll have to work it through and say, okay, I will do it because of this.
Yeah.
We should do it because of this. I steel myself and I go, I'll be very nice because I know, okay, this is a 4-hour engagement. I am leaving after that.
After that.
But I think it is as important to know not what I want to avoid, but what I want to attract and what I want to be by. Because if you know that, you can preempt a lot of things that really upset your peace and not waste energy trying to figure it out. Yeah.
Right.
You know, Terry, I guess people are possibly different in how they approach things.
Mhm.
Because for me, I could sense very easily if someone is, from the time they start chatting and make a statement, I could determine whether I want to continue or not. And I just switch or find a way to move on, right? But you said something, Karen, but both sides to me is important. I understand the negative energy. I pick it up and I dismiss it immediately. I don't allow it to drain any battery. I pick it up immediately. I may not be as blunt as Terry in how I may approach it, but because I pick it up very easy, I know how to dismiss the situation. Whether it's to get out of it by, even if it's a phone call and say, listen, I've had a call, or if I'm talking to you and I see something and I move on. So both sides, I know when it's a negative for me to immediately cut, but because I'm also aware of who I want around me, the positive energies. So I know what gives me that positive energy. So I could switch to that almost immediately, just as I could move away from the negative. But I believe it's important for us to be aware what gives you, what are the triggers, what the people or the things that create that negative around you. And if you're aware of that, you have to also know how to get rid of it without your battery being drained down completely. By the time it starts to drain, you say, you know, and you find a way to build it back up. So the approach is different, but we have to know ourselves what we could tolerate, what gives us the energy and not gives us that energy, and control the as I said before, the expectations that we have, because not I just can't tolerate negative people around me. So from the time you start, my whole I pick it up immediately and say, not me. I have to find a way to switch. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, also, there are some of us who are very fearful of the that. You
Yeah.
know, when Terry spoke about the fact that, look, people, she just, this is her square, and she is preserving her peace, and she is nurturing her space, and she is not allowing other people to invade that space and invade her quiet and stuff. But there are some of us who, even though we are transitioning into a different phase of life. We're still stuck where we were. So that although the noise as the well, the applause and the accolades and all of those things are fading. And that's why I speak to what you should avoid, because people will still allow themselves to engage in those spaces or to be included in those spaces and exhaust themselves and tell themselves that, hey, yeah, I'm having a good time. I'm at peace with my
In
decision to
suffering,
retire.
the suffering,
Yes, suffer.
Maureen, they just like the
the
And,
suffering
bacchanal.
and
They just
talking,
like
I was trying
bacchanal
to
and
talk myself
confusion.
out of
and
suffering.
and so, something that Terrian always says, and it's very true, we have to create new interests and experiences that would afford us the opportunity really to enjoy ourselves and by extension preserve our peace. Because again, and why I found this topic was so interesting and why I really asked you question, who you should avoid, is that I think that a lot of people still are not realistically looking at their situation and recognizing that, look, this is not about power, control, or dominance. This is about preservation and, more importantly, the nurturing of a new aspect of your life and of your mind and that kind of thing, right? So maybe we could speak now to healthy relationships and some of the things that will assist us in ensuring that we continue to grow and develop and preserve. Well, we have to nurture, grow and develop and nurture to ultimately preserve this peace um that we have to guard with the remaining of our lives. Yeah?
And Maureen, that sounds like a great healthy relationships for our next topic. Terry, our discussion, our Zoom
I was just
discussion.
about to say we have about 5 more minutes, and I think
I think that
we
is
can
a
have
great
that,
because
and that could be our meetup topic for next week.
yeah, I think
Because what is a healthy relationship? And
Yeah?
I like that view because I think human beings by nature are competitive. Whether
Mm-hmm.
20th century and 21st century living have made us that way. And competitive means that the pie is X size and I have to get my fair share.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
what I get is at the expense of others. And this is
Yeah.
not only in the area of work, of the second act, and so on. And I think we come into this stage of life not realizing how fully that is our orientation, that this pie is yea big, and what I gain can only be at the expense of something else. So we are protective, we are possessive, we are always comparing, and we don't understand enough, and we don't
Yeah.
understand that, okay, this is what I create for myself and I am happy with it. I really don't care what you think about it when you come and you talking around me. I don't, because I like it. So when you come and you asking me stupid questions about this, and as Jennifer said, they're asking questions, this is so, but in the back of your head, I just look at you and answer you some madness, you know? And if it is really ridiculous and I can't get you out of my space, I will tell you, you approach life differently to me, I don't think you will ever understand what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
And then we could continue the discussion on how you are different to me, not justifying how I am at all. Or we could just go drink some punch and I'll go find somebody else to talk to. But I think the healthy relationships come from it, they're always based on people who have your value system. So your soul talks to soul, soul talks to soul.
Yeah.
There is nothing about that interaction that's abrasive. You could have different views.
Yeah.
It does not mean that you think the same. You could have completely race, religion, politics. You could be on completely different sides. But we can have a conversation because we have respect for the human being that is in front of us.
Yeah.
And we are willing to understand and learn. And I think at the end of the day, that is the root of a healthy relationship. Because it is not that we are a homogeneous blob and everybody I associate with must look like me, behave like me, believe like me. That's boring. But
Yeah.
it can't be that you think less of me because I am different. Try to understand me and I will try
Correct.
to understand you. And we both come from this bigger people, larger people, and you have a friend or an acquaintance or somebody that you could bounce off different ideas from. But we want to be grabbing this pie and we want homogeneity. So we want to be like the person that we admire, the rich one, the beautiful one, the successful one, the whatever, however we define it. And we have no tolerance for difference. So
Yeah.
I think really it is, if my soul talks to you and your soul talks to me, we good. And that soul is a very special place. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So that I would look forward to expanding on that in our meetup. Yeah. That's my view of that.
So all I have to say again would be the discussion would be around how we communicate and connect with each other for a healthy relationship. We have spoken
I'm looking
for
forward to the
entire
meetup
hour.
We meet up.
where we
Yeah.
talk about let's talk about what's a healthy relationship because I think
Correct.
it's a critical input to how we make new friends because a big part of building community is meeting new people,
Making new
engaging
friends.
with
That's
people,
right.
and they're
That's
not
right.
going to look like the people you were with on the second act.
Correct.
You know, status will be different, all kinds
Correct.
of things will be different.
Correct.
So,
Interests, everything. Yeah. Yeah.
yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that next Wednesday.
All right, girls. There we go. That's a wrap.
So we say bye for now.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay.
Take care.
50 Plus Tribe and follow us from Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean.
Thank you for joining us on this Connections 50 Plus 5.8G Alive show.
We hope you enjoyed the lively conversation and look forward to seeing you next week.
Don't forget to like our Facebook page and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
We really love getting your feedback. Bye for now.